Assalamu alaikum and good evening. We're the Negotiators Committee for the Pakistani government and the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan aimed at ending the militants' bloody 7-year insurgency. But the U.S. is considering another army operation to take out an American citizen and suspected member of Al-Qaeda who is allegedly planning attacks on U.S. targets overseas. Internal threats are also decisive. Blowing up gas lines, power structures and train tracks is the duty given to BLA by the Indians and Americans. TTP is supposed to attack the state security forces, air bases, ISI, and bog down Pak army in urban war. In political landscape, MQM People's Party, ANP, seems to create chaos in Karachi, and PMLN political leaders and judiciary seems to create economic and law and order collapse. Auctioning of Pakistan's state assets under the name of privatization would be granted to government favorites. Media would play its role in spreading lies, disinformation, and deceptions. On the other hand, Pervez Musharraf's prosecution for treason under Article 6 of the Pakistan Constitution has compromised relations between the Nawaz government and the army at an inconvenient moment, and pressure is building up to find a way to end Musharraf treason prosecution. In the situation where external and internal threats are prominent, some questions arises here. How are the talks with Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan progressing? What 2014 holds for Pakistan? Is U.S. an ally of Pakistan or an enemy? What has Pakistan gained from trusting U.S.? Today we will discuss all the aspects of Pak-U.S. relations and fifth-generation war that Pakistan is facing as of today. As you know, viewers, in my show, Mr. Zaid Hamid joins me. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Zaid Hamid. We would like to have a report seen first in which we want to analyze the U.S.-Pak relations, the history, and then as of today, and then we will get back to our discussion. Let's have a look at that first.
The history of Pak-U.S. relations dates back to 20th October 1947. The Indo-Pak wars of 1965 and 1971 gave a clear message to Pakistani leadership that U.S. is not a reliable partner, as U.S. did not support Pakistan during the time of dire need. In 1956, Ayub Khan allowed United States to fly spy mission to Soviet Union from Pakistani's territory. The Cold War can be considered a best example of such relations, as right after the withdrawal of Soviets from Afghanistan, the Pak-U.S. relationship goes to lowest ebb. The incident of 9/11 once again opened the gates for the U.S. to hunt the target as per their wish by chanting the slogan of war on terror. Since the time Pakistan joined the U.S.-led war on terror, it got a number of traditional and non-traditional security challenges to deal with. The drone attacks in the tribal areas of Pakistan are considered as a clear violation of state sovereignty. Osama bin Laden killing by a U.S. Special Forces unit in Abbottabad was another significant shift in the relations between Pakistan and U.S. The case of Raymond Davis showed the covert presence of American agents disguised in multiple coverts in pursuit of their objectives. U.S.-Pakistan relations culminated again when 24 Pakistani soldiers died in an airstrike by the U.S. Army. The huge Indian involvement in Afghanistan, supported by U.S. for training Afghan forces after the 2014, would further be the exciting security and anxiety for Pakistan.
Yes, Mr. Zaid Hamid, today's million-dollar question is U.S. an ally of Pakistan or an enemy of Pakistan? But before you answer my question, I would like you to have a look at the CNN's broadcast in which the debate on killing a U.S. terrorist on a foreign soil through drones, and then what was the response of a U.S. law professor on this. I would like to have a look at that first and then answer my question.
Warfare, we need to adapt the rules of war to the new realities of the dangers facing America.
All right.
That's the debate we should be having.
Jamil, I'm going to give you the last word. Go ahead.
Well, I don't think we should treat the whole planet like a battlefield. You know, the United States is at war in Afghanistan. It's not at war in many of the other places in which it's carrying out targeted killings. And you have to draw a distinction between those two things. the government can't use wartime authority in places in which the government is not at war.
All right, we got to leave it there, guys. But obviously this debate is going to continue. Jamil Jaffer.
Did you see that the law professor Ellen at the end said that with Pakistan, U.S. is at war? So now, is U.S. Pakistan's ally, or is U.S. the biggest enemy of Pakistan?
You see, simple short answer. At least for the last 11 years, U.S. is a hostile state. It's waging an overt and a covert war against the state of Pakistan, people of Pakistan. And Pakistan has been betrayed. The trust that we gave to the United States has been betrayed once again, as it has been done throughout the history of Pak-US relationship. Today, the bloodshed that you see in Pakistan is caused by the US presence in Afghanistan and the US betrayal of Pakistani trust, our faith, our confidence, our friendship. Pakistan has been considering itself as a friend of the United States. But the bottom line is, the US is a hostile state. It's an enemy state for Pakistan today, just as Indians are. And this is the most unfortunate aspect of this asymmetric relationship, that when Obama came into power, he openly declared Pakistan a battlefield, AFPAC. When the AFPAC military doctrine was applied in this region, it meant that Pakistan would also be a battlefield, even though they did not declare Pakistan a battlefield, as the lawyer which you just heard was saying, that while in Afghanistan America is in a declared war, in Pakistan they are not in a declared war. So they are in an undeclared war against Pakistan, and that's what the other American professor was saying, that we need to adjust to the realities of war, and with Pakistan we are at war. That's what his last words were. And this is something that Pakistani leadership and the world community must understand now, that just like the Americans are reshaping the greater Middle East, they attacked and destroyed Iraq, they attacked and destroyed Syria and Libya, and dismembered Sudan, and destroyed and occupied Afghanistan. In exactly the same manner, the Americans are now waging a bloody, ruthless, covert, undeclared war against the state of Pakistan.
Mr. Zaid Hamid, you have heard also that U.S. is planning another attack on the same frame as Osama bin Laden was attacked, because one of the U.S. terrorists is in Pakistan. So what do you see if a same attack happens of the same framework? What would be the consequences that Pakistan would face? Once the U.S. will do an attack and they leave, what would Pakistan have to face after that?
You see, what happened after Osama bin Laden's raid? Whether Osama was present there or not, that's highly suspicious, highly doubtful, because nobody in the world saw Osama's body. Americans never showed any proof. But the damage which was suffered by the Pakistani state was intense. Pakistani government was humiliated, armed forces were insulted, nation was infuriated, angry and enraged, and there was so much internal conflict developed within the Pakistani state and the nation that everybody was blaming each other. It increased the chaos and the anarchy and gave the signal to the world that Pakistan is a soft state. Anybody can come in, make a strike deep inside Pakistan and evacuate and leave, and Pakistani state would not be able to respond. After that, Indians also started to threaten similar strikes inside Pakistan. And now Obama is again threatening a similar strike. He has the audacity to say it openly, that we have an American terrorist who nobody knows who that terrorist is, where does he live, and this time probably they're going to take him out right next to the GHQ. Last time they took him out next to the military academy in Abbottabad. But now probably they're going to find him next to the GHQ or next to the Prime Minister's house or next to some...
What would be the purpose of U.S. portraying an attack? Let's suppose if an Osama bin Laden attack was a portrayed attack, if they are planning another portrayed attack, what do they want out of that attack?
You see, they will give the impression, after the Osama bin Laden raid, they created the impression in the world, they created the psyops, the perception management was done to prove that Pakistani state, armed forces and the ISI have been protecting the global terrorists. And this is exactly what they are going to achieve from this next raid which they are planning. They are going to find or create that terrorist somewhere close to the Pakistani security establishment, and then say that Pakistan's army and ISI are rogue states and should be declared international terrorist organizations, and put pressure on Pakistan to allow more CIA access into Pakistan, just like Raymond Davis was. Raymond Davis belonged to a covert secret organization called JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. This is based in Afghanistan. And the objectives of JSOC are to overthrow the governments, to topple regimes, to break up countries, and to find nuclear weapons and destroy them. And these two objectives the Americans have been doing. That is exactly the reason why they are in Afghanistan, and they refuse to leave, because they have not achieved these two critical objectives of JSOC, for which Raymond Davis type spies were spread all over the country under various garbs. Americans have penetrated the media to create the perception management for this environment. They have even purchased doctors in the polio campaign. That's why there's no polio campaign going on in Pakistan, because the biggest American spies were in polio campaign. Dr. Afridi is still in jail.
Dr. Shakil Afridi. And they're asking his release.
Even no less than Obama is putting pressure on Pakistan, because he was the master spy. And there are hundreds of them, like him in various departments of Pakistan government, humanitarian programs, NGOs, government institutions, organizations working for the JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. And that is why now you see that the Americans actually refuse to leave Afghanistan. Recently you were hearing that Obama has even said, American administration has said that they would not leave Afghanistan unless the security agreement is signed with the Karzai regime or with the Afghan government.
But then, Mr. Zaid Hamid, aren't we hearing that Karzai is getting more inclined towards Taliban, and that is what U.S. is about?
You see, Karzai is now a dead man walking. He has been abandoned by the Americans, and Afghan Taliban and Pashtuns consider him a traitor and an enemy. And he has no place to go now. So once the new elections take place in May or June, when next coming elections, Karzai would not be elected. And then what would be his fate? Afghan Taliban, wherever they find him, they'll kill him. And Americans have already abandoned him. So that's why the panic dead man walking, he is trying to find allies to survive. Otherwise, he'll have to leave Afghanistan. Mr.
Zaid Hamid, we have to take a break here, but after this conversation, the question arises that since U.S. has to leave Afghanistan in the next 7 to 8 months, so is this U.S. attack syndrome going to target Pakistan to have his holds in this area? Stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, viewers. We are discussing that U.S. is considering another army operation attack to take out an American citizen who is in Pakistan. Now, we would like to know that in the light of past history of Pak-U.S. relations, what should be we learning from this situation? What has Pakistan gained from trusting U.S. in 1971, Afghan jihad, and now U.S. war in Afghanistan? Mr. Zaid Hamid, before going on the break, we know that U.S. is planning another attack of the same framework as Osama bin Laden. So if they do conduct this attack, then what should we do?
You see, Americans have been attacking Pakistani soil and territory and armed forces, as well as the people, through multiple axes. The American helicopters have directly attacked Pakistan army and killed so many of Pakistan army troops, after which we had blocked the NATO supplies for 8 months. Their drones can constantly penetrate Pakistan's airspace and attack Pakistani civilians and Afghan, whomever they consider hostile. Their JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command, men like Raymond Davis, their spies roam around all over the country and do assassinations, terrorist acts, car bombings, suicide bombings, trying to ignite sectarian and religious violence, exactly the same way that they are doing it in Iraq, Syria, and they did in Libya as well. They are supporting the TTP insurgency. Mullah Fazlullah based in Afghanistan, protected by the Afghan and American administration and the CIA and RAW for waging this bloody war against the Pakistani state, which has almost claimed 100,000 people so far, almost bringing the whole Pakistani state to the verge of collapse. Americans are directly supporting Balochistan Liberation Army along with Indians. American congressmen have openly been saying in US Congress that they should separate Balochistan from Pakistan, and it's not just once. Multiple congressmen have said this over a period of time. US State Department have already met the Baluch insurgents and separatists, assuring them of absolute support to break off Pakistan. And Americans are heavily involved in Karachi in creating the urban violence. Now, if they make another raid into Pakistan, just like the Osama bin Laden raid, That would just be a continuation of the American war against Pakistan. But how should Pakistan
What would be our strategy?
How should Pakistan army respond this time? The fact is, the first and the foremost, Pakistan must recognize that now America is a hostile enemy state. And they must be sent strong warnings that if America makes another mistake of raiding Pakistani territory the way they did in the Osama bin Laden's case, then Pakistan would be forced to demand a total American evacuation from Afghanistan. In any case, we should make sure our policies and diplomacy should be geared to achieve that objective, throw out Americans from Afghanistan. Because if we do not do that, Pakistan would become a dismembered, failed state, God forbid. Because now we have reached on the verge of collapse. The fifth generation war which is being waged against Pakistan has crossed the red line, has reached that critical boiling point that beyond which Pakistani state will not be able to sustain itself. We have the example of Soviet Union, we have the example of Yugoslavia, we have the example of Iraq, Syria, Libya, Sudan. Multiple states have been...
The list can go on.
List can go on. And in every case you find the American involvement of dismembering the state, reshaping the Middle East, changing the map.
But have we learned anything, Mr.
We
Zaid?
have not.
Because
This is the
if
unfortunate
we
part.
connect the U.S. factor, the external factor of U.S. with the internal factor of TTP in Pakistan, we are having this peace talk circus going on. And in a recent interview to Newsweek, the spokesperson Shahidullah Shahid has said that Mullah Umar will be Amirul Momineen and Mullah Fazlullah has all the qualities of being a Khalifa to lead Pakistan. And then he has denied that he has not used these words. And then we see the attacks in Karachi, in Peshawar, in Swabi. And then the same person, Shahidullah Shahid, taking the responsibility of attacks in Karachi at the bus of the police training center. What is going on? Where is this peace talk process going?
See, this is what we are telling you. That Americans and Indian RAW, CIA and RAW would never allow TTP to have peace with Pakistan. All the previous, Fazlullah should realize this, and world should also know that previous TTP commanders, all those who tried to cut peace deals with Pakistan, were assassinated by CIA drones. Whether it is Hakimullah Masood or whether it is Naik Muhammad or whether it is any other commander, all those were killed by CIA drones. Why? Because they were serious in cutting peace deals with Pakistan, and CIA could not allow that.
So this time TTP is trying to keep US happy as well by giving out this kind of statement.
TTP is a CIA and RAW proxy, just like Free Syrian Army. And under no circumstance, we had warned this, right on this program, on this forum, we had warned our nation not to fall for the trap. A trap was being sent when, in the January, early January, in the first 3 weeks, TTP have waged a bloody campaign of terror in Pakistan. So much blood had flowed, and then Pakistan Air Force and Army responded. One strike had broken the back of TTP in North Waziristan at that time. And then TTP needed time to regroup, reorganize, and then
But then Mr. Zaid Hamid, in his interview, when he was asked that if TTP fears full military operation if the peace talks fail, he said that another military operation cannot harm TTP at all. We have been tested before and had success. Now our network has expanded much more economically, militarily, and politically.
You see, what has happened is the state of Pakistan has been conceding space to these terrorists, and that's why this cancer has spread into the society. But that does not mean this cancer cannot be treated. You need some chemotherapy, you need some surgery, but first surgery and then some chemotherapy. And then of course rehabilitation therapy as well, and this cancer can be treated. What has been happening is that while only Pakistan Army is the only institution which has been fighting this fighting, the government has not been fighting, the parliament has not been, and the media has actually been treacherous. So with this environment, yes, TTP has flourished in Pakistan.
But then what about, Mr. Zaid Hamid, the statement from Rana Sanaullah? He said that there are 174 areas of Punjab which have been identified for military operations.
You see, these political leaders are absolutely political idiots. They have no idea of strategy, they have no idea of geopolitics or geoeconomics or how insurgency operates. Military operations cannot eliminate insurgency unless all the organs of the state support the military operation. If army captures them, what would the army do to them? Start executing them against the wall in front of the firing squads, or hand them over to the judiciary, or put them to a court-martial trial? These questions have never been answered by the state. And as a result, even if and then we know it very clearly that these insurgents are backed and supported from Afghanistan by CIA and RAW. What strategy has been done by the government to make sure that Americans and Afghans abandon their support to TTP, and Pakistan Army is able to block their escape routes into Afghanistan. For that you need diplomacy and military strategy together. That has not been done again. So as a result, now even if you conduct military operations in the tribal areas, these terrorists always escape into Afghanistan to come back to fight another day. And this anarchic cycle, fatal cycle has been going on for the last 15 years, for the last 10 years. Because army has been able to clear such huge areas whenever army had free hand, where they could encircle the terrorists, like in Swat Valley particularly, where army could encircle the terrorists and moved in with force. They cleared the entire Swat Valley in 2 months. The area bigger than England was cleared up in 2 months. And all over the world now, military schools are teaching Pakistan Army operations as an ideal counter-insurgency operations. So as far as Pakistan Army's capability is concerned, that's the best in the world, undoubted, fully tested. We have seen them in battle, and their mettle is proven. They are the finest sons we have, and the brilliant army that the world has, one of the brilliant army the world has ever seen. But the point is, even the best of the armies cannot fight without the support of the judiciary, without the support of the media, and without the support of a prime minister. And unfortunately, our prime minister is made of rubber, and he's made of foam and wax. He doesn't have a backbone to stay.
Then has our political leadership given this confidence to TTP, where he's saying that Pakistan government peace talks with Taliban symbolizes the TTP victory, as government has now accepted the TTP reality?
You see, this is, we have been saying,
so
that
this
by talking to
confidence gaining factor has been given by our own political leadership.
This is exactly what we are saying. By talking to a banned terrorist, foreign-sponsored CIA, raw-backed organization, Pakistani state has surrendered its authority to foreign hostile secret services and given legitimacy to a terrorist organization which should have been crushed by force. And this is a betrayal which cannot be forgiven, and generations would pay the cost of this. Because when in Syria, you should remember this, whenever some kind of peace deal had to be cut in Syria, the negotiations were done between the handlers, not the proxies. It's the Saudi Arabia and the Americans and the Russians talked with each other, and not the Bashar al-Assad or the Free Syrian Army, because they were the proxies. Their handlers were behind them. And this is exactly the point. Once you start bringing terrorists and insurgents to the level of an Islamic nuclear-powered state, you are humiliating the state and elevating the terrorists who should have been crushed, as we said. So, and the political leadership has committed such a betrayal now with the state that now the cost of eliminating TTP would be 100 times more.
Mr. Zaid Hamid, he said in his interview that our main focus is army and intelligence agencies. They are the custodians of this system, and they are TTP main targets. He is not talking about political leadership. He's only targeting about
political
army.
leadership is already compromised and collapsed. The only institution which is keeping this Pakistan together is the armed forces and the ISI. And that is why, despite the fact, what has happened is, the farce of the situation is that the government has asked army to hold back, while TTP is not holding back. They are eliminating the allies of the army, patriots, the armed forces, paramilitary. Their attacks are ruthless, and they are constantly attacking.
On the bus of the police training
They
center.
are constantly attacking, and all the political leaders who are still supporting talks with TTP are responsible for this bloodshed, and I'm going to name them now. It's Nawaz Sharif, it's Imran Khan, it's Jamaat Islami leadership, it's JUI leadership. These people have got hands on their blood now.
Mr. Zaid Hamid, Imran Khan's statement has sterilized the entire country. According to Imran Khan, when he was meeting Prime Minister and General Kayani before the APC, he said that General Kayani said that the military operation success rate is 40%.
You see, if General Kayani has said this, I would agree with him. Why? Because I have just explained to you the reason also.
Our military operation success rate is only 40%. We will talk on this after a short break. I have to take a break here. Viewers, stay with us. We would like to know this statement by Imran Khan saying that the military operation holds only the success rate of 40%, as said by General Kayani. Stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back viewers, we're talking on the situation in Pakistan, on the peace talks process between Taliban and Pakistan government. And then on the top of that, the statement coming from Imran Khan saying that the success rate of a military operation is only 40%, as said by General Kayani. Mr. Zaid Hamid, let's have a look at the statement given by Imran Khan on this military operation success rate, and then we will get back to our discussion.
जब APC 9 सितंबर से पहले मैंने कहा जनरल कयानी और नवाज शरीफ से मैं अलग बात करना चाहता हूं, तो मेरे सामने नवाज शरीफ ने कहा कि जनरल कयानी कह रहे हैं सिर्फ 40% चांस है जंग की कामयाबी की.
Yes, Mr. Zaid Hamid, what would you say about the statement coming from Imran Khan? And in Senate, there was a strong opposition against his statement. Why would General Kayani rate his military operation only up till 40%?
You see, you keep this context in mind. If there are 100 terrorists, and if General Kayani has said this, he means we can, once we launch operation into North Waziristan, we can kill 40 of them, and 60 would escape. 60 would escape to Afghanistan. And that's exactly what we are saying. The success rate would be 100% if you encircle the terrorists, if you're able to block their exit route into Afghanistan, if you're able to pressurize the Americans and Afghan government not to support the insurgents. Once there's a betrayal, once the Americans betray Pakistan.
But don't you think that this statement coming from an army chief can underestimate the performance of its military?
You see, army chief gave this statement to the Prime Minister. And they were doing, and if he has ever given this, they were doing a factual assessment of the threat and how to respond to it. And this kind of level of discussion is always done between the army chief and the Prime Minister. And if Imran was present, he should not have leaked this information, which is betrayal. The point of the matter is, even if this discussion is being done, in South Waziristan we have an example. Army led a brilliant operation in South Waziristan. We had encircled them from 3 sides. And Americans had given full assurance that Americans going to block the exit of the terrorists in Afghanistan, from South Waziristan. But at the last moment, Americans removed their posts. And all the insurgents escaped into Afghanistan, and Afghan army helicopters lifted them up to Bagram and other places for them to fight another day. This is the betrayal we are talking about. The betrayal that the Americans have been doing. That is why the success rate become low. If the betrayal from the Americans and the Afghans continue, that's what the army chief was saying.
What would you say on the stand from all the political parties that do want to have peace talks with Taliban after this recent attack in Karachi on the police training center, and then the responsibility being accepted by Shahidullah Shahid himself?
I would say that all these political parties who have been supporting dialogues with these anarchic, animalistic terrorists, all these political parties should be booked for murder. They should be booked for treason against the state of Pakistan, for their stupidity and for the betrayal of the nation of siding and supporting banned terrorist organizations who are constantly waging a war against the state, and for stopping Pakistan army from launching operations against these terrorists. There is blood on the hands of Imran Khan, and he will not be forgiven for this. There is blood on the hands of Nawaz Sharif. There is blood on the hands of Munawwar Hassan, and there is blood on the hands of Fazlur Rahman, and there is blood on the hands of all those media terrorists, I would say, media subversive elements who have been supporting talks with these terrorists.
If these terrorists are trying to gain time, trying to buy time, won't they be listening to what they have been told? Why are they violating the basic rules? Why are they attacking and then claiming their responsibilities?
You see, they wanted to, point is, note the time, after the first PF airstrike, in the end of January, the strike which was made on them, over 100 terrorists were killed at one spot. The main commanders were assassinated. They really took a very solid hit then. And that was the time they needed, that was the time when they wanted to regroup, reorganize, and immediately suit for peace. And the trap that they throw, the bait that they throw, and the government and their advisors and their allies, they fell for it. Now, see, that's a loose guerrilla organization, TTP, and they don't need very long time to regroup. I had estimated they might take maximum of 2 months to reorganize and regroup. But perhaps it seems they have taken about 15 days or 20 days to regroup and reorganize, and now they are launching the attacks again. And now they are attacking all these assets which Pakistan army had created in the tribal areas, Yaman Lashkars, the pro-Pakistan tribals. They are being assassinated in a brutal war of assassination and retribution by these
terrorists. It's like
terrorists.
a recent attack in Peshawar. Where the peace leader house was attacked. And
all these tribals are being assassinated who are siding with Pakistan, while Pakistan army has been forced not to operate against them by the government and by the provincial government and by the political leadership. That's why I'm saying all this political leadership, I'm saying it openly, is guilty of absolute treason against the state of Pakistan, and they should be held accountable
Mr.
for
Zaid
it.
Hamid, I would like to know your opinion when one of the question asked to the spokesperson Shahidullah Shahid in his interview regarding the foreign fighters. He said that foreign fighters will not be handed over to government, and he gave an example that Mullah Umar gave away the whole Afghanistan but did not hand over Osama bin Laden.
You see, Mullah Umar, there is no comparison between Shahidullah Shahid or Mullah Fazlullah and Mullah Umar. Mullah Umar is an Afghan Pashtun. He's the son of the children of the Afghan Mujahideen who had fought against the Soviets. Now they're fighting against the Americans. It's a war against the occupation forces. It's a legitimate war. But Mullah Fazlullah, whom is he fighting against? He's fighting against which occupation force?
The reasons that he gave for their fight, according to him, TTP is at war with Pakistan government for two reasons. One for friendship with government, one for friendship with US, and second, continuation of un-Islamic democratic system. They want the enforcement of Sharia, and according to him, Sunni Hanafi system is the best Sharia system.
You see, what basically Shahidullah Shahid has also said, that the only Sharia we will accept is in which our leader, the terrorist, the cutthroat animal, would become the leader. That means they're not looking for Islam, they're looking for Islamabad. They're gunning for Islamabad, not for Islam. And in their version, if whatever you see the past history of what TTP has been doing, according to their version, because if they are not Muslims for all practical purposes, in Islamic doctrines, Islamic scriptures, in the sayings of the Prophet, this gang of terrorists is called Khawarij. Khawarij means they're out of the fold of Islam. They're not Muslims. So they do not represent Islam. But the kind of version they are presenting is in which all so-called non-TTP followers would be assassinated. Shias will be killed. Barelvis, Ahl-Sunnat wal Jamaat will be killed. Ahl-Hadith will be killed. Ismailis will be killed. All non-Muslim will be killed. This kind of butchery, which has never been done in 1400 years of Muslim history, is now being done by a CIA-sponsored, raw-sponsored terrorist gang, pretending to be Muslims, giving the perception to the world that that's how Islam spread. Because now recently, in Chitral also...
Right, when you talk about spreading Islam, Taliban has recently threatened Kalash, Ismailis, NGOs in Chitral. They have warned Kalash people to convert to Islam or face death. And they have also announced to launch an armed struggle against Ismaili people in Chitral.
Is this the way the Prophet did? Is this the way of Islam? Is this the way the Muslims did in 1400 years? Muslims ruled India for 1000 years. If Muslims had used force, not a single Hindu would have left in India. But the most benevolent and tolerant rule that the world could see. In Spain, Andalusia, Muslims ruled for 800 years. But did Muslims prosecute or force conversion of Christians and Jews? For centuries after centuries, Christians and Jews lived peacefully within Muslim lands. When Christians prosecuted Jews in Andalusia and rest of the Europe, they were protected in the Ottoman lands. When for centuries after centuries, under Muslim rule, Jews and Christians lived peacefully in Palestine.
Who will protect these Ismailis?
You see, this is what we are saying.
In the
This is what we are saying. It is the responsibility of the Pakistani state, the government and the Pakistani armed forces. But the point is, these TTP are not just killing Ismailis or Kailash or other non-Muslims. Their war is actually against Muslims. The war of TTP is against Muslims. And that is why the Islamic State of Pakistan, the only armed Islamic nuclear country in the world, must respond with force to prove that it is capable of carrying nuclear weapons. This is what the Americans and the RAW and the Mossad is trying to do. Create the perception that Pakistan is a failed state, not capable of carrying nuclear weapons. That's why the global perception...
So Mr. Zaid Hamid, you just said that to create a perception that Pakistan is a failed state. I would like to have your comment on this, in the news that have come up, that Pakistani intelligence agencies are phone tapping of politicians, journalists, government officials and rulers, and using these recorded tapes to create differences between ministers and prime minister.
Absolutely.
Between his loyal men.
This news has come from a media group which is known to be hostile towards the Pakistani state. There are cases filed against this group in the Supreme Court for absolute treason against the state. And the judiciary does not listen to these cases because the group is so powerful. And this group is known to be an enemy media group, a hostile media group, which is waging a war against the very state, just as TTP and CIA and RAW are waging their war and insurgencies against the state of Pakistan. So coming from that group, I would reject it outright. Because in Pakistan, there are multiple foreign secret services operating as well. The CIA has got a huge espionage center in Islamabad under the cover of embassy. And Indians also operate here. The JSOC operate here. The government-run intelligence agencies, various provinces have different governments who control their own intelligence agencies. Who is doing this? Why blame Pakistan Army and the ISI? The fact is, this particular group which has produced this news is the one who had actually proven, according to his own self, that all the Mumbai attacks were done by a Pakistani Ajmal Kasab from Faridkot, when later on it was proven the entire documentary was fake. And the case, such similar incidents, the hundreds of examples where we can give that this group betrayed Pakistan, Pakistani armed forces and the ISI, and actually acted as a hostile media instrument of the war which is being waged against the Pakistani state. So I would reject that news completely.
Okay. Mr. Zaid Hamid, we are running out of time. I want to get your comment on the Musharraf prosecution trial as well. Now, according to the Khalid Ranja, Musharraf's lawyer, he's saying that Musharraf's trial should be prosecuted in the military court, not in the special court. Whereas Sheikh Akram is saying that this case should be prosecuted in the special court. What's happening in this scenario, in this case?
You see, what has basically, as we said, when you understand the concept of fifth generation war, it means one word: create chaos and anarchy in the state at all levels. Whether it's through the insurgents, whether it's through the media, whether it is through the privatization of entire state assets, hand over the Pakistan's economy to foreign buyers, or bring out clash within the institutions. This particular trial of Musharraf is basically going to bring a head-on clash between the army and the government of Nawaz Sharif.
But who's trying to do that? Who's trying to bring army and the Nawaz Sharif leadership head-to-head with each other?
You see, the advisors of Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif is a venomous man himself. He's got weaknesses within himself. He's got advisors around him who are dubious people, and who are advising him to punish the ex-army chief, so that the next army chief, which is present army chief, may not dare to overthrow your government ever again. They are trying to become like Erdogan, who had... But Erdogan is a strong man. He'd proven himself in Turkey for 10 years. He built Turkey into a strong regional power. But Nawaz Sharif is a failed, incompetent moron. And when he's trying to act like Erdogan, all what would happen is he'll accelerate his own demise. And basically what has happened is this CIA, this democracy was at the first place brought about by CIA. The old saying, be nice to America or they'll bring democracy to you. This is perfectly, aptly fits on Pakistan's case. Pakistan was not nice to them, as they thought, so they brought democracy. They removed Musharraf and they brought democracy. And now Pakistan's implosion and collapse is on the last verges now. Through democracy. This democracy has destroyed Pakistan. And now ask every Pakistani on the street. People would want army back. Because this democracy has destroyed the nation in all aspects. The country's economy is destroyed, security is destroyed, judiciary is destroyed, media is hostile.
You mean a democracy without the right performance?
A democracy which is brought about by CIA must be removed by force. If the state institutions will not remove them, the hostile powers will. Americans are waiting on the edge. Narendra Modi and India are waiting on the east. If this government, it continues as it is now, Pakistan would, God forbid, implode the way Iraq, Libya, Syria and Soviet Union imploded.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zaid Hamid. Viewers, as you saw, we discussed about the internal and external threats to Pakistan. Internally, the democracy that me and you celebrated, that after so many years, one democratic government handed over successfully to a second democratic government. But now the question is that is the second democratic government is performing or not? How long will this democratic government stand still, facing all the threats from internal and external factors? That's it for tonight. See you all next Sunday. Until then, Allah Hafiz and good night.